What's up, everyone? Thrift Barringer, Richard Holdridge, Georgia, Alabama Sports Live. We appreciate everyone that is tuning in right now and showing us your support all season long. We went through football season. Now we're here with basketball. Thrift Barringer, Richard Holdridge. Rich, how you been, man? It's been a great time to be a sports broadcaster here in our area.
Absolutely, Thrift. I have been great. First of all, I want to thank you, Brett Taylor, Jeremy Hayes, for giving me the opportunity to be part of an incredible broadcast over the weekend at Columbus State for the GIAA All Classifications. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot about the industry, and it was just a top notch broadcast with a great team, great camera angles, instant replay, the panning of the fans, and it was just such a great event. And I want to appreciate you, Brett, and Jeremy just for giving me that opportunity.
No doubt. It was a lot of fun this past week and weekend. Started on Wednesday, Richard. Got the opportunity to call Final Four games with Ben Spicer at Georgia College and State University. That was a lot of fun. Jeremy Hayes, Aaron Lee, Rico Mitchell, Russ and Reese Lennick. I mean, it was a who's who team, and I was so glad to be a part of that team as we're going to be doing many things in the future. And also thank you to Tony Morgan. He's in charge of GIAA streaming and basically marketing. And that guy is phenomenal, and I appreciate him allowing me the opportunity. And, of course, Brett Taylor, who is in charge of the whole shebang, state championship. JJ, he was the guy in charge of replay. Mandy, I forgot Mandy's brother's name, but these guys, it was about a crew of 10 to 12 over a 2-day period. And all collectively, between the two Final Four sites and at CSU, there's about 15 to 20 people that really invested interest in making sure these broadcasts were ESPN caliber, and they were. We had a lot of fun being able to broadcast the GIAA state championship games and Final Four. This is Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show presented by Glynn Smith Chevrolet. Get ready to smile. You see them right behind me. You see the poster up there. They've been huge supporters of ours, and we appreciate Jerry Porter, Jared Hudson, and all the people there at Glynn Smith Chevrolet for being presenting sponsors. Thank you to State Farm, Carol Purdue. Thank you to Terry Johnson Agency. I mean, these Masterwall Incorporated, these are people that have been sponsoring us from the very beginning, and we appreciate the love and support that they give us. But back to the calling the games, being able to be a part of Pacelli all season long, Richard. Corey Black gave me the opportunity to be the play-by-play guy last year for the boys and girls team. This year, same thing, called over, I think I counted 22 games, maybe a little bit more than that, is we got to call this season for Pacelli, Lady Vikings and Vikings, and then to be on the call for the state championship. Very incredible moment. I'm glad they allowed me to be a part of the ride. And it was a great experience that I'm not going to ever take for granted. And I'm also excited, Richard, that you were able to be a part of that broadcast. That was pretty cool to have you as someone that I've called with now for 2 years to be a part of it. That was a pretty surreal moment, and I appreciate it. I also want to say a shout out to my guy Rick Beach from Cut2 Sports, who is also a Georgia Alabama Sports Live announcer. He'll be calling CVCC baseball and softball games along with me and you, Richard, Noah Shelton. It's a group of us that we're going to be knocking it out, and he's got Harris County baseball. So without guys like Rick Beach, what we do would not be possible. But thank you again to Corey and Bryant. And we'll talk about the state championship and stuff. I just want to talk about the weekend as broadcasters. Great experience.
Absolutely, Thrift. And I really appreciate the opportunity. While you were at Milledgeville doing the Final Four, I was just excited that I got to call the Border Wars on Thursday. It was all day, 5 baseball games at Glenwood. And I admit, it wasn't the ideal baseball weather. It was a little cold and it was overcasted, but there was really no rain till later that night. But we managed to get all the baseball games in, and I got to say, it was quite a success to see Pacelli, Glenwood, Brookstone, even saw Lakeside School, and we had a familiar face. The former Russell County head baseball coach, Tony Rasmus, was playing Pacelli in that first game. I'm excited about baseball, and I love baseball. I played it when I was a kid. I called games for the Chattahoots and the Monsters last year. I want to thank Tom Callahan. I called games along with Tom Callahan and Noah Shelton, and I appreciated Tom for giving me that opportunity. And I'm excited about baseball as well.
I am too. But again, I want to do a full circle. By the way, Sports Vision Radio Show yesterday, 4 to 6 p.m. Bunch of great guests. We had Rachel Barbeau on, who is a national star and is doing great things with mental health and talking to young men and women in professional sports. Thank you so much for coming on Sports Vision Radio Show. You can listen to that interview on the Sports Vision's Facebook page. But going back to Coach Black, and I'm going to say this more tomorrow. I don't want to use too much of it when we do the Pacelli Basketball Coaches Show. We got one more show. We're going to do a wrap-up show, kind of like what we did with Coach Purdue. We're going to do that with Coach Black, and we're going to do that with Bryant Thomas. But back in 2018, I was given the opportunity to be a part of the CB Hoops Perfect Practice Fall League. And I told Corey, I was like, man, I want to cover this in some capacity. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I was still at CSU at the time, but I knew I wanted to. And I just started going live off of my iPad off Facebook because I knew that I could go Facebook Live. I was doing a show that way. I was like, you know what? Why can't I just Facebook Live the game? And started doing play-by-play and stuff like that. And Corey said, there's something to this, man. We got a lot of traction from that. Well, then he, obviously built Pacelli up the way he has. And we'll talk about that in a moment. I'm talking about the streaming part. He got a guy in Jeremy Hayes, who I think is ahead of his time when it comes to streaming. I've learned so much from him. But again, if Corey didn't believe in what I was trying to do, and that was a trickle-down effect, other people then started saying, well, dang, that's pretty cool what Pacelli's got over there. And he allowed me to showcase what I'm capable of. He didn't have to do that, and I'm always going to be grateful for him. I told you, I tried to say as neutral as I could, and I was told it sounded great. Richard, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I was told it sounded great, and I was glad to be on the call for the state championship. But in my heart, it meant a lot to me to see my guy Corey Black, who has literally done everything the right way in building a program, just ahead of his time, man. And to see what he's got now at Pacelli, when I'm telling you, most people thought that was a laughing stock. They even think about going to play basketball there, to now being the premier destination. That's credit to Corey, his staff, and everyone over there. And the guy knows how to hire. DJ was talking about this on the show yesterday. He goes out and he gets guys like Richard Mahone. He goes out and gets Ulysses Ford and Malcolm Holyfield. These are guys that are picking up his staff to make up for his weaknesses. You got to have a good team surrounding you. And that what makes a great coach. Maybe other coaches should hear that. You can't do it all yourself. You got to have help. You got to have people that want to be invested in your vision and what you're trying to accomplish. And there's not a better guy that hires elite talent, no matter the sport, than Corey. But it was came full circle to be on the call as he won his first state championship on the court that he got his first opportunity in, Richard. That is pretty surreal. And I know you were excited to be on it too. Same with Bryant Thomas, guy that played at CSU.
I really was excited to be on the call with you, Thrift. Friday and Saturday, all classifications of the GIAA, starting with 1A and 3A on Friday, and then 2A and 4A. And it was very fitting that the Pacelli girls and the Pacelli boys wrapped up the night clinching championships in their hometown, 2 miles up the road at Columbus State. It wasn't a great sight just to see that sea of red. I mean, they could have easily put the upper seats down, and we could have had a full house there. I mean, it was like not just Pacelli fans, but basketball fans in Columbus were there in the building to see St. Anne Pacelli, Lady Vikings, and Vikings win their first ever state championship. It was such a great feeling. But the weekend was great itself. Congratulations to all the teams. Yeah. I mean, it was a great event, and I got to say just a big shout out to the Columbus Sports Council, Mary Sherman, for putting on a great event. I hope they get to host it again because it was a success.
Yeah, thank you, Mary Sherman, for coming on when we did our show on Saturday, which was a pretty cool thing to do live on location at the GIAA State Championships at Columbus State University. We had Mary Sherman on talk about what the Columbus Sports Council does. Also, Dave Boyd, we've had him on Sports Vision. So thank you for what y'all do at Columbus Sports Council. But let's talk about the season as a whole before we get into our ratings. It's all high school basketball here. We won't really touch on much of anything. We will have a breakdown on Sunday of college basketball because the conference tournament starts next week and the NCAA tournament is a week after. So mega breakdown coming on Sunday, Richard. Looking forward to that. But let's talk about high school live stream as a whole. Richard, we were able to be a part of the George Williams Thanksgiving Classic. We were able to broadcast the semifinals and all 8 games, the place games for the Muskogee County Christmas Tournament. We were able to be a part of the Border Wars. We were able to be a part of the Lee County Round Ball Classic. Richard, we were able to call a Glenwood State Championship game, multiple Elite 8 games. We called what I thought was the game of the year, Russell County Central, that went to overtime. Just being able to hit every single school in our area. And, Richard, it was, 60 games?
80.
80 games, and that includes CVCC men's and women's that we called. 80 games, man. And I want to say this, man. Toygar and Chris, without them being as hardworking as me and Richard, and have guys you really got to love what you do and believe in the dream to do as much as we have and will continue to do because of the vision that I've had since I started this thing when trying to make sure that we can cover as many of the schools around this area to give every single athlete an opportunity of exposure to help them get to the next level. That is a huge reason why we do this. And I thought we accomplished a lot to be able to call the Glenwood State Championship, both Pacelli's. It would have been cool to do a Hardaway, but maybe that's the next level. Get in with the GHSA and be able to call their state championships. But I thought, after what we did during football season, the Calvary and the Glenwood State Championships, the Harris County run, that was phenomenal. I thought that was like, we're not going to be able to top that. And then we came with basketball season and just as much winning. I was telling DJ, the winning that's happening right now, I do not remember consistently us having this much winning from a big radius of schools, not just 1 or 2 schools, but 3, 4. Baseball's got 3 or 4 that can win it all. Basketball, 3 or 4 that can win it all. Football, 3 or 4, not just 1 or 2, multiple schools that are competing. It's a good time to be alive, and that's God's timing, I guess, because I'm just glad to be a small part and what has happened in our area. An awesome job, again, to Pacelli, Lady Vikings, and Vikings. They win state. And that was just a capper for what was an excellent basketball season. Your recap, Richard.
Thrift, it was an excellent basketball season, like you mentioned. And I actually counted up. I called 80 games. Between you and me, I think we called 100 because there were times we had double headers where I was calling some games, and I'm counting 2 games, boys and girls. And so it's probably in the 90s to 100. So a great job by both of us. And then we also had Rick Beach called a Harris County basketball game with me. Noah Shelton called some Glenwood games, some Calvary games. So just a big shout out to Rick Beach and Noah Shelton for stepping up. And I think that it's really all about the coverage for these kids because we've got some great players. I was talking to the head basketball coach at Columbus State, Matt Hauser for the women, Robert Moore for the men. They're using this as a tool. Not only are they going to the games, Coach Hauser is just probably walking to the campus of Hardaway to see this incredible Hardaway girls team. By the way, they don't have any seniors, but he'll probably be recruiting them 2 years from now to possibly come to Columbus State. And same with Coach Moore. He's recruiting some of the players in this area, and they're using Georgia Alabama Sports Live as a tool. It's getting these kids exposure, and that is what it's all about. It's about the kids and showcasing their talent here in the Fountain City.
I agree. And thank you to our supporters. Thank you to our sponsors. None of this is possible without them. Thank you to the athletic directors like Jeff Battles and Tim Fanning, Steve Smith, Corey Black. These guys have been integral parts in allowing us to be a part of everything that we've done. We got to call Shaw. We got to call Kendrick, Jordan. We literally got to call every school around here. And to see, listen, in the boys' side, you had Hardaway host a playoff game and have one of their best seasons in quite some time. Columbus High had their best season in 20 daggum years and made it to the playoffs. Carver all the way to the Final Four. Eric Allen showing why he's, again, one of the top dogs when it comes to this, and they don't have a senior. They're going to be even better next year. Lost to Sandy Creek, but made it to the Final Four. Glenwood boys, Final Four. Spencer, Sweet 16. Central, Final Four. And Pacelli, state champions. Brookstone, Elite 8. That's 8 teams I just mentioned, Richard. Northside made the playoffs this year. A little bit down year from last year, but they still made the playoffs. 9 teams. And then even the Harris County Tigers made the playoffs. That's 10. Basketball's at its highest. It's been in a long time. Hopefully we capitalize. Hopefully we get the right people in place, like a Corey Black, like a Dusty Perdue, that are making sure these athletes get to the next level, like an Eric Allen, and developing them, because talent's here. Now let's capitalize on the talent, get them to the next level, which then it will equal winning. And then on the girls' side, state champions in Pacelli and Glenwood. Are you kidding me? Carver, Final Four. Spencer, Sweet 16. Shaw made it to the playoffs. Hardaway, state championship. Brookstone, Elite 8. I mean, Jordan made the playoffs. Northside made the playoffs. Harris County to the Elite 8. Richard, that's a lot. That's almost all the teams. I mean, and then next year, it's going to be even tougher because we have all 7 of 8 Muskogee County schools going to be in the same region. So 3 teams are going to get left out. So, but with that being said, thank you so much to everyone that supported us. A lot of fun. Glad that we were able to continue what we're building here. And now, like you said, Richard, it's time for baseball season. Some key thoughts. Russell County Central, I think, was one of the games of the year. Carver Spencer was an excellent game. I thought Sandy Creek Pacelli was in that game, even led in the second half, ended up losing by 7. Sandy Creek's blowing out everyone, Richard. I don't know if you noticed that or not. They haven't had a game within 30. And Pacelli had 7 points. I mean, with 7 points from them. Some key games that we've done. Richard, you called a 50-point game by Tyler Freeman. How about a 44-point game I called by Jadance Ford? Come on, Rich. A 38-point state championship game. And that was from a girl that's not from here, but that girl was lighting it up when we were calling for 2A state championship, Marissa Holder. But, man, just the list can go on and on. Anything you want to highlight, Richard, before we move on?
I just thought it was a very successful basketball season. And, we really went from going from football to basketball. There were weeks where we were calling three to 4 basketball games a week. And it was really a lot of fun just to showcase just about every team here in the Tri-City area. And we got an opportunity to see many gifted athletes. I can't wait till next year. But we just keep grinding, and we're moving on to baseball season. But we still got one more team left to go. I'm excited. Hardaway playing in the state championship tomorrow against Baldwin in Macon.
And I will tell everyone this. On Sunday, I know we're recapping today, but on Sunday, me and Richard are going to drop Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And I'm going to try to see if I can talk DJ Jones into a Georgia Alabama Sports Live / Sports Visions all basketball or all by city, all Tri-City team, if you will. I think that's something that I would like to do and put it out there for people to see. I'm going to talk with DJ, see what he thinks. But I think that would be pretty cool to be able to do. I mean, other people are coming up with their all by city teams and everything else. Richard, we were at every freaking game. We caught 100 games. I mean, I feel like we have just as much a right as anyone else
Absolutely.
to make a all-by-city team. So that's something we're thinking about doing on Sunday. But we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to do our ratings poll. We hope that we do ruffle some feathers, get some people talking. I promise you, it's what we're trying to do. But thank you to Glynn Smith Chevrolet, our presenting sponsor, for their support of what we do. All right, everyone, we're going to take a break, and I'm going to tell you why they say when you go by Glynn Smith Chevrolet and GMC, get ready to smile.
Glynn Smith GMC and Opelika invite you to discover extraordinary deals like this powerful all-new GMC Sierra 1500 Pro, now up to $12,500 off. Purchase the roomy GMC Terrain SLT, discounted up to $8,750 off, and the GMC Acadia with 3-row seating, discounted up to $6,000 off. Enjoy no payments till summertime at Glynn Smith GMC. Over 300 new and used vehicles on the lot or on the way. Get ready to smile.
Welcome back, everyone. And Richard's coming back. He was smiling there. Richard, give that smile, baby. We appreciate Terry Porter and Glynn Smith Chevrolet for their support of what we do. All right. This is why everybody's tuning in. This is why we want you to tell a friend, as DJ Jones says, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend that we're about to drop the ratings right now. We'll first start with the girls. Richard, without further ado, our final regular season. And I know, before you throw them up, Richard, I know Hardaway hasn't played yet, but even if Hardaway loses, it wouldn't change how our ratings
doesn't matter.
Are going to come out. Does not matter. Let's throw them up there, Richard. So coming in at number 10, we have a three-way tie between a Brookstone team that lost their best player in Taylor Williams, that 27 a game, and Coach Kim Ellison had a team that struggled at some point during the season, got to about 500, came in third place in the region. And people were like, well, they're done. They'll make the playoffs. They'll lose the first round. Nope. They actually won a playoff game and made it to the Elite Eight, where they lost to the number 1 seed, George Walton. But the fact they even won a playoff game, made it to the Elite Eight, they're in our rankings. Great season for Coach Kim Ellison and the Brookstone Lady Cougars. Jordan, I know it says 10 and 18 up there, but they made the playoffs. And for people that know about Jordan's lack of resources, what Shireen Cobb did there, Richard, phenomenal. And they come in at number 10. They even made the playoffs and then tied with both of them. We had to put them in there. They didn't make the playoffs, but to go 14-5, and they play in a tough region, Richard. I mean, Auburn made the Final Four, and then we know how good Central is. I mean, that's a tough ask to come out of that region. 14-5, much improved. So one of the surprise teams in our area. There's our first three. Any comments?
Well, I mean, Brookstone had a very successful run to the Elite Eight. I thought that Jordan just making the playoffs, especially in a region with 8 teams, phenomenal. And we know how good Central and Smith Station are in Auburn. And so Smith Station, with their record, I mean, they were undefeated going into those Central and Auburn games. But they'll be back, hopefully. It's just the way the format is for the 7A teams in Alabama, that there's going to be a really good team that's not going to make the playoffs.
Moving on, number 9, 15-9, excellent season. Michaela Reed, All-State as an 8th grader. I'm going to say it one more time. All-State as an 8th grader. She put up close to 25 a game. Richard, Michaela Reed is phenomenal, and she, again, only in the 8th grade. The reason they're in number 9, I would have had them higher. They lost in the Elite Eight in overtime, heartbreaking fashion. And they had beat the defending champions in Creekside in the region championship. They got to get a first-round bye. I honestly thought Calvary was going to make it farther than they did. Just came up short in that Elite Eight game. Number 8, the Shaw Lady Raiders. Coach Curtis Crowell's team. Back-to-back years they made the playoffs. They got an improvement in their record. They lost, and he felt like he was pretty devastated. He thought he should have won that first-round matchup. But the fact they made the playoffs, Sierra Tucker, close to 26 points a game. She's going to be playing at the next level. That's a win in my book. Coach Curtis Crowell comes in at number 8. Richard, any thoughts on those two?
Yeah, they lost in the first round to a Fayette County team that went to the Final Four. So that just tells you the opponent that they were playing.
And they could have beat them. And they had a lot of self-inflicted wounds, Richard. So they could have even won that. That shows you what could happen with Shaw if they had won. Coming in at number 7, Central. 18-11, Richard. Lost in the Sweet 16, but made the playoffs first time in some years and won a playoff game. And I think, again, they return majority of their players next year, including the sophomore sensation, Jabria Lindsay. They will be fine. Rosetta Williams in her first season, I think, did a really good job. And Central, be on the lookout. I think their girls could be cutting down the nets very, very soon. And I do want to give a couple of shout outs. For one, Corey Black saying thank you for everything this season. Coach, you know I love you. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. DJ Jones, great job. I mean, that's the guy that gave us the opportunity, Richard. He's the one that's been in our corner since we first started Georgia Alabama Sports Live. To have someone like that, game changer. Dale Fort, love the energy. Thrift, excited for Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Thank you, Dale Fort. Richard, you know Dale, his son Davison, has been in my basketball league and camps. Love my man Davison and Dale Fort is a executive for Chicken Salad Chick. Maybe we could see Chicken Salad Chick in the near future as advertising with Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Richie Hasterhay, and then, of course, Curtis Crowell. Thank y'all for everything y'all did for basketball season this year. Much love and respect. Much love and respect for you, Coach, and that's the reason we do it. You know how much I respect what you have built at Shaw. And, again, you don't have the resources at some of the other schools. I want to say this from a man, Coach Crowell, man. Somebody get this man a shooting machine. For someone that literally went to college and got a scholarship to play junior college basketball solely because I was able to shoot thousands of shots on a shooting machine during my junior and senior year. You can ask Dusty Perdue, Josh McConnell. I used to lock up that gym at Glenwood shooting on it. It is a vital part for people being successful. So I'm hoping a lot of the Muskogee County schools get it. But I know my man Curtis Crowell, once he gets it, it could be a game changer for his program. But making it to the playoffs, great job for him. Central, number 7. Number 6, Spencer Greenway. Second in the region, Richard. Win a playoff game. Coach Titch, 20 wins in a season. First time in several years. Coach Titch done a great job, and Adrian Tinch, I think, has the wherewithal and the capability. And I know they lose the Burke sisters, but they still got talent there.
Actually, Alexandria Burke was a junior, so she's coming back.
So Alex is coming back. So only one Burke sister's leaving. They'll be just as competitive next year, Richard.
Yeah, they're losing
those two schools.
They're losing Naomi Burke, but they're still going to have Alexandria Burke. I think they're losing Malaysia Dias, but Central is going into a new classification next year with Carver, Hardaway, Shaw. I cannot wait for these teams to battle. Coach Tinch did a good job getting them to the second round of the playoffs back-to-back years.
Moving on, top 5. They were just about a minute away, 30 seconds away from making the Final Four. The Harris County Lady Tigers, 25-4. Coach Ramsey Dunn, year in and year out, has a team that's going to be either 1 and 2 in their region. Love what Harris County's got. They moved down a classification. They're going to be just as good next year. Coach Ramsey Dunn showing why she is an elite coach. And I think it's only a matter of time before she gets an opportunity at the college level. So college coaches, you want someone that can build a program from literally ground up. Coach Anthony Ramsey Dunn is that Elite 8, nothing to hang their head down on. Great season for the Lady Tigers of Harris County at number 5.
Absolutely. And they were taking on a Cartersville team. They lost by 1 point. Just the fact they got to host an Elite 8 game because Cartersville knocked off Jefferson. We know how tough 5A is. I mean, look at all the teams that Harris County would have to go through. And they faced a lot of adversity. That first game in the playoffs, they were facing a Warner Robins team that went to the Final Four. They beat them by 5. Their second game, they were down 31-17 to Bradwell Institute. They came back and won that game. So that was such a success to host an Elite 8 game. Congratulations to Coach Stephanie Ramsey Dunn.
All right, moving on. Let's continue. Make sure to share this. Like us on Facebook. I mean, you're already here. Why not like it? We you know what we do now. You should have heard that we're going to be live streaming events and high school athletics are on here. You know you love sports. Everyone does, seems like, around this area. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube. Let's move on. Now, number 4, the Carver Lady Tigers, who lost to Wesleyan, who is an excellent program, but Coach Anson Hunley. I think this is Final Four number 4 or 5 in the last 7 or 8 seasons. 2 state championships. The Carver Tigers came up short, but they come in at number 4. I know they've been number 2 in our rankings for pretty much the entirety of the season. The reason we move them down, because you have to give credit, because when we do it's a ratings, not rankings. So we don't really count for head-to-head. And I know some of these teams did face each other, but the way we do it is off of strength of schedule, off of talent you have, and the biggest one, chances to win in your league. And hence why we have the two teams ahead of Carver, number 2 and number 2 tied respectively. And we're not, just because Glenwood's ahead of Pacelli does not mean we think Glenwood is better than Pacelli. That's just how it was typed up on there. Glenwood, state champions, 28-5, Dusty Perdue, TK Davis, and a Grace Griggs. It's hard finding a tandem like that. That's a double-double machine in TK Davis and a Grace Griggs, one of the most impressive players and improved players in our area. She was putting up 15 and 10 throughout the season. But what I saw from Pacelli, after they lost to Newton early January 2nd, they got beat by Harris County by 20. Since losing to Harris County, losing to Newton, they have not lost a game. They don't give up over 40 points in majority of those games, including the state championship. They are a lockdown defense led by, I think, the defensive player of the year and Michaela Hosley. I think she is the best defensive player that we have in our city. I know, and we'll talk about the next team, AK Shelton can block shots. She is phenomenal. But there is no position Michaela Hosley cannot cover. She is an incredible athlete. And throw in Grace Smith, who is an 8th grader who can light it up from the outside. And then Bryant Thomas, who made, I think, the biggest adjustment ever in the state championship game, showing why he has the acumen and the wherewithal to be an elite coach. Anybody that doubted him, don't know what you were doubting. You obviously didn't know what you were talking about. But Pacelli and Glenwood come in at number 2. Both of them state champions. Both of them went on like a 20-game winning streak to end the season. Great job by Dusty Perdue and Bryant Thomas. They come in at number 2. Richard, thoughts on them?
Well, it's hard not to rank somebody that has won the champion. They're the champions. You know, Glenwood won the AISA championship. I got to call that game against Lee Scott, and it was a very good competitive game. And then Pacelli taking on a George Walton team, the defending GIAA champions. And this Pacelli team, remember, they don't have any seniors. And you look at the mixture and the depth that they have. I mean, you talk about the 8th grader, Grace Smith. You talk about Michaela Hosley. How about Ivana Thomas? How about
Tamaya Ransom?
Tamaya Ransom. I was about to say that. I mean, yeah.
Amora Jones, Zanaya Crouch. I mean, Jayla Moore. He plays 8 and 9. They were integral part in being successful. And then number 1 team, regardless if they lose the ball win or not, and I think they're going to win. And you know, Columbus versus everybody, baby. But they're the best team in our area, and I don't think anyone will question it. They have the best starting 5, I think, not only in our area, but in the state. They have an elite coaching staff led by Kelly Ellison. Deja Burrell is one of the we don't see it nowadays, Richard, because most of the time the nowadays point guard is someone like a Steph Curry that likes to get up a lot of shots, high volume, can facilitate, but wants to get his or her own. Deja Burrell is the complete opposite. She is your traditional point guard. It is a pleasant sight to see watching her play and facilitate to like Michaela Johnson, to dump it down to a double-double machine and AK Shelton, to find Hardy and Meeks. I mean, just an incredible job by Hardaway. 27-4, excellent season. First time in school history they made the state championship. By the way, St. Pacelli, that was their first ever state championship in the history of the girls program. But Hardaway coming in at number 1, the best team in our area, and I think they're about to prove they're one of the best teams in the state, regardless of classification.
Thrift, I do want to say that their toughest task was that Elite 8 game where they hosted at Hardaway against Holy Innocents Episcopal. I do believe that Holy Innocents Episcopal probably had their best shot at beating Hardaway. They had no problem with North Oconee in the Final Four. I mean, this team who went to the Final Four last year, got everybody back, and they were ready to not only get to the Final Four, but get to the championship, where they're facing a Baldwin team which has been ranked number 1. Kyle Sandy's rankings he has, Sandy Spell. Yes, Baldwin is ranked number 1, but this is going to be strength on strength, probably the best starting 5 we have ever seen, and it starts with Michaela Johnson. I mean, she averages 18.4 points a game. She has just got all the skills to be a post player, but she could also take it outside behind the arc and shoot threes. You talk about the defense of AK Shelton, and she is also a double-double in the paint. Janiyah Hardy, I mean, Adasia Burrell. I mean, you look at some of the players, Lanaya Meeks. I mean, what can you say about this Hardaway?
And by the way, Lanaya Meeks is the only senior, Richard.
That's right. She is the only senior. That just tells you that they are going to be back next year, and what a job that Coach Kelly Ellison has done with the Hardaway Lady Hawks. And I'm excited. I hope that we could just make that trip to Macon tomorrow and just see the Hardaway Hawks, Lady Hawks, in the state championship. Because you mentioned this in the Sports Vision show, Thrift, that Baldwin is going to bring their fans because Milledgeville is only like 30 minutes away. So we've got to represent.
Yep, and we got to represent well. All right, let's move on. That's our girls' rankings. Congratulations to all the teams. Pacelli and Glenwood specifically already winning state, and we hope Hardaway will be our third girls' state champion in basketball this year. Phenomenal season for all these teams and every girls' program in our area. Now let's move on to the boys. Our boys don't have near as many teams. And we kept it simple. Number 10 is Shaw. Though they didn't make the playoffs, but they come at 13-12 this year. Good season for them. They were just on the outskirts, and honestly, in that region with Bainbridge and Westover and Cairo and Hardaway, I mean, all 5 teams were pretty much, interchangeable, but good season for them. Number 9, Carl Ivy's Brookstone Cougars, all the way in the Elite 8. They played Pacelli close in that first half, and I was really impressed on how he came out. Losing the Elite 8, win a playoff game in his first season as a head coach. Great job by them. And then Carl Ivy Sr. taking the Columbus Blue Devils to a playoff game. First time in 20 years. How about that, Richard?
Yeah, first time since 1999. Columbus is just not known as a basketball school. The last basketball player that was well known in Columbus was Sam Mitchell in the 1980s. I mean, so just to take this group of players led by Oakley Kuntz and Dre Wooten, and you also had Robert Hartford, the shooter. You had Savion Kelly. I mean, this team was fun to watch, and they were in a very tough region. You look at Carver going to the Final Four. Monroe was on the outskirts of the Final Four. Dodgery was in the Final Four. I mean, So they took on a very tough Cross Creek team out of Augusta, and they played them close. But, just the fact that they made the playoffs, what an accomplishment.
Moving on, number 7, Russell County made it to the playoffs, won an area championship, 18-11. Coach Ronnie Battle. They did lose in the first round of the playoffs, but Ronnie Battle, excellent season for Coach Battle. And Russell County comes in at number 7. Number 6, good friend of mine, Kendall Mills and the Hardaway Hawks. Upset everyone, becoming second in their region, got to host a playoff game, lost in heartbreaking fashion. I looked at that bracket. They could have made a decent run. I know he was devastated, but again, Makai Benton going to CSU, sending kids to the next level. That's what Coach Mills is all about and should be held to that accountability. And winning 16 games, excellent season for Hardaway. Any thoughts on those, Rich, before we get in the top 5?
Well, yeah, like Russell County, like what the job that Coach Ronnie Battle did, and I witnessed Russell County on the doorstep of the playoffs the last 2 seasons, making it to the playoffs, getting that first round win against McGill-Tulane, and losing to Carver Montgomery in the second round. What an accomplishment for Coach Battle, and I think that Russell County is going to start being, it's going to put Alabama on notice because, you think of Russell County, you think of a baseball school. You think of Coach Griggs building up that football team. And you don't really think of it as a basketball school, but Russell County really had the county excited about basketball.
All right, let's move on. Top 5 coming in the Final Four, losing in double overtime, Richard. They were a shot away from playing for another state championship and maybe even winning. Glenwood, Final Four, Dusty Purdue. They did this without their second leading scorer, Levi Pender. If he doesn't get injured, Glenwood probably win state this year. So losing your second lead scorer really hurt. The fact that they still came back from it, overcame a lot of injuries, and they returned majority of their players. Pender's back, McCrane's back, Swag's back. That's 3 of their top 5 players. Glenwood's going to be fine next year. And Coach Purdue, he'll probably add a couple pieces here or there. They come in at number 5. Number 4, I thought this team was going to make it to the Final Four. They just went up against a tough Butler team. Coach Quintavious Allen, those team won a region championship regular season, won the region tournament championship, won 22 games. This guy won a state championship 2 years ago, comes back 22-3. Great job. Keyshawn Sampton, guy that's going to the next level. Gary Gaither, guy going to the next level. Dre Duncan, seniors that were part of that state championship team. Great job by the Spencer Greenways. They come in at number 4. Richard, thoughts on 5 and 4?
Yeah, I think that Glenwood is just going to be fine in the AHSAA. I can't wait for some of the matchups that Coach Purdue has for the 2024 season. What Coach Allen has done at Spencer, he's got a young team. I know that they're losing Gary Gaither, but they have a lot of pieces that were not playing on that state championship team 2 years ago. Spencer is just known for having a lot of depth and a lot of talent, and I was just excited that I got to be a part of the region championship. I mean, they were just facing a team in Butler that was in a very tough region. And even though the game was at home, Butler is one of the top teams in 2A. As you saw, that their talent was able to overcome.
A bad draw. They just had a bad draw.
Yeah, it was a bad draw. That's really what it was.
And Butler, honestly, should have been number 1 seed, but because they lost in the region tournament, that happened with a lot of teams. That's why they had to face them. All right, number 3, Carver Tigers. They went 0-4 against Monroe and Daugherty in their region, and then was not able to beat Monroe in the region tournament. Went 0-5 against those teams. And you know what Coach Pembroke did? He makes it to the Final Four. He won 3 straight road games to make it to the Final Four. He has no seniors. And he took a team from last year winning 6 games, 6-25 or something, to 24-6. By the way, Daugherty made the Final Four. Monroe lost in the Elite 8 to Sandy Creek. So they could have had 3 teams in the Final Four in that one region. And Columbus was not too shabby themselves. Unbelievable job. And I thought that was pretty incredible for them to be able to do that. Central. 29-8, Richard. They come in at number 2 as they lose in the Final Four to a Hoover team that won state. A great job by the Central Red Devils. They return majority of their players back. Next year is going to be their year. They won't say championship with guys like Dawson and Hill being seniors. They think next year that's their year. They should win it. They've been at the state championship Final Four in back-to-back seasons. They got to win it all next year. But Carver and Central coming in at 2 and 3. Carver, just Coach Pembroke doing what he does best, man. Unbelievable job.
Yeah, and the fact is you have your top players, like for Central, you got Jacoby Hill that's only a junior. He's going to be coming back. Tony Montgomery for Carver, he's going to be coming back. Think about this. Carver won 3 road games to get to the Final Four. They beat Academy of Richmond County on the road. They beat Savannah Country Day on the road. They beat Hart County on the road. And it wasn't like they went an hour away to play these road games. They were playing these road games in Savannah, in Augusta. And then they played the Final Four at Savannah State. And so, yeah, the Carver Tigers will be back. What an improvement going from 6 wins last year to 24 wins this year and a Final Four appearance.
Unbelievable. And shout out, by the way, Jeremy, I know you're just now tuning in. We gave you a lot of love at the beginning. Just go back and listen to it. That guy, Jeremy Hayes, is on something, man. I'm just glad to be on his team, and I'm glad we got a lot of things coming up in the future in terms of live streaming. It's takeover time. But that video he created for this next team, when it's him, it's the girls on top. It's a 3-video thing. Girls on top, the boys winning, and then you have the fans cheering on the bottom. 3 videos playing in one clip. 3 clips in one video. That's the way we should say it. That was, and it was awesome, man. It was an awesome video. Really cool to see. And the number 1 team in our rankings, and there's no question about it, is the Pacelli Vikings. They beat Daugherty, who made it to the Final Four in 3A. They lost to a 6A powerhouse in Lee County, and their best player put up 44 and almost beat them. I think one of the top 3 teams in the state, all high schools included, GAPS, GIAA, doesn't matter what classification of the GHSA, Sandy Creek's one of the top teams in the state. They had them on the ropes, was close at halftime, and lost by 7. They beat a 7A Valdosta team who made the playoffs, had a good year. They beat a Douglas County team. They beat Loganville. They beat Heritage. Loganville, who they play in the state. They beat Heritage, who was the second team in the state. Lost in the 3A state championship. I know I'm leaving off some other great teams. They play Newton. They almost played Baldwin, we saw their girls team are loaded. Richard, and they did all this and went 24-6. They lost to Christian Heritage, one of the top 1A private schools in the state. Corey was not scared to go against any of them. And you know what it turned into? A team that won a state championship and cut down the net. They're the best defensive team we have in our area. I'm going to say that one more time. They are the best defensive team in our area. They locked down every team they have faced this year. They only gave up 73 against Sandy Creek. That's saying something for a team that can score 90 or 100 like that. They did a good job against Heritage, one of the best offensive teams, and holding them to 30 points, Richard? You were there for that, 40 points.
Yes.
Very low-scoring game. They got a guy in Jaden Ford who was just won All-State Player of the Year. They got Makai Williams, Daisy Justy. They got big guys that they can interchange. Just an excellent job by Coach Corey Black. And they went number one. They started the season number one, Richard. They end the season at number one. When you play the toughest schedule, you win a state championship, you got the best players, you're going to be number one. And they're the best program we have so far in our area. Unbelievable job. And a cherry on top to win a state championship. And the thing is, they're going to be back again next year, Richard. They lose TJ Smith and Justy. Huge parts of the state championship game. But they got young pieces. They're going to be coming back. You got Ford. You got Michael Rowe. You got Jalen Bush. I mean, they're going to be just as good next year. Unbelievable job. Unbelievable season. And what a capper to win a state championship at Columbus State, where Corey Black was given an opportunity by his mentor, Herbert Green, who the court is named after. Herbert saw something in Corey, gave him an opportunity, and the rest is history. And now my guy won his first state championship on a court that he used in a place in the Lumpkin Center he used to stay the night in. Long hours, long nights, working, grinding, recruiting, watching film. And now his team just won a state championship on that court. Bryant Thomas played and a student assistant at CSU, where Bryant used to take people's ankles. A court he used to play on. Won a state championship. You can't write a better story than that, Richard. Glad we got to be a part of it. Here's our top 10 rankings. Any final thoughts, Richard?
It was a great final top 10 rankings. I was just glad that I got to be a part of the Pacelli State Championship. Well deserving of a state championship, and it was really redemption from last year's 1-point loss to Stratford Academy in Macon. I know that that was the goal, to get back there and win it all, and I'm just so happy for Coach Black and the Pacelli Vikings, and they're going to run it back next year. I mean, they're going to not only have a talented team next year, because they're going to get some recruits coming in. I mean, they're going to get some new players coming in, rather, like freshmen, sophomores, just young players like they do. And I think that they're going to have a very good team next year.
I think they are too. And, the old saying, Richard, when you have an elite team that's a dynasty and it's continuously winning, like with Alabama and the USCs of the world in football, or the Duke, North Carolinas of college basketball, They don't rebuild, Richard, after they lose seniors or win a state championship. They just reload for the next year, and they come back just as strong, and they're the favorites again. I expect the same thing for Pacelli. Here's our top 10 ratings. Richard, you can throw them off, ma'am. All right, again, we want to say thank you so much to everyone that was a part of our journey this year during basketball season. We appreciate the love and support. MVPs of this year, Chris Gates and Toygar Isla, they're our producers. Without them, we don't get ESPN level production, so we appreciate them. It was also cool to have Chris Gates a part of that, our state championship broadcast. He was able to direct, and Jeremy had him doing that. I thought that was cool for Jeremy to let him do that. So we had Jeremy, we had Brett Taylor, we had Chris Gates, JJ. I mean, come on, man. That's a who's who. I got to work with those 4 guys, plus Aaron Lee, Rico Mitchell, Russ and Reese Lennig. I mean, you're talking about elite of the elite when it comes to broadcasting, live streaming, getting highlights. No one's better in this area, and I'm just glad to be a part of it. And we appreciate it, and glad that Pacelli, championship high, man. Football state championship last year, flag football the past 2 years, soccer state championship, wrestling, the internet gaming one. I mean, basketball this year, they just keep winning. Baseball, by the way, shout out my guy Carson Bowers. Baseball team's playing Bethlehem Christian. I don't know if they played today or not, but baseball came in as a top 2 team in the state and a team that could win it all this year. Walker Hinton has been great to start the season. They beat Calvary, who, according to Max Preps, is the number 3 team in the state. They beat them 14-6. Pacelli's even ranked. We got Glenwood's good. We thought basketball. Wait till we get into baseball. But thank y'all again, everyone that was supporting us. Great season. And let's get one more state championship with Hardaway Hawks. Tomorrow, starting at 6:30, you're going to get, 7 o'clock. It's the final Pacelli Basketball Coaches Show presented by Glynn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. We're going to have Coach Corey Black, Bryant Thomas, myself, sitting down, talking about the season, recapping the championship, and putting a exclamation point on what was an incredible year of basketball for the Vikings and Lady Vikings at Pacelli. From Thrift Barringer, Richard Holdridge saying thank y'all for tuning in. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube. We'll be back. Coach's Show Friday, Harris County Shaw baseball, and then CVCC baseball and softball on Saturday, and the Georgia-Alabama Sports Live Show Sunday. We'll be going into college basketball. That's going to be a long show, Richard. We're going to have on some great guests coming up here in the next few weeks, like guys like Bear O'Brien, Jonathan Shusky Buckets, Bobby Z. I mean, that's just one to name a few of the guys we plan on having right here on the Georgia-Alabama Sports Live Show. Thank y'all. Have a good night, and we will see you later. Make sure to share it. And as Glynn Smith Chevrolet and GMC says, get ready to smile. See y'all, guys.